the lightweight little cruiser from Honda that consistently ranks as one of the most popular beginner motorcycles, the Rebel 500, up against what Kawasaki describes as having sport bike performance with cruiser style, the Vulcan S. If you're looking for a smaller CC or beginner motorcycle in this category, it is impossible to ignore these two titans of the class, and today we're putting them head to head in one epic showdown. G'day, I'm Kwackajack, and welcome back to another episode of the Versus series. This is where we put two similar bikes which you may be looking to choose between under the magnifying glass for a comprehensive specs comparison and really get down to the nitty gritty. We'll be analysing the styling, claimed engine and power specs, exhaust notes, weight, suspension and ergos, brakes, fuel economy, features and price to see where they stack up and who comes out on top. If you're after a more specific video on either machine, I have full in-person reviews of both up here on the channel. I'll also be including some of my experiences with them throughout and give you my personal pick of the two at the end. Alright, let's get straight into it and have a look at the styling. Up first, we have the Honda CMX or Rebel 500. With it having its last real update back in 2020, it is the smaller and sleeker of the two bikes we have here today. With a more bobber-like style to it, including a low rear and high front, it has definitely got a distinctive look on the road, which I would argue is reminiscent of a Harley-Davidson Sportster. There are two versions available here in Oz, the Standard and S editions, with the S giving it a few more styling touches, including a headlight cowl, diamond-stitched seat, and fork covers. Over on the Kawasaki, we see a more stereotypical cruiser shape, but with a more modern and urban design. It is longer and wider with what they claim to be edgy styling. There are three models available in Australia, the learner approved and full powered, which both share the same styling, along with the Cafe, which has got a different paint scheme and wind deflector at the front. Both models are very low and sleek, but of course styling is subjective, so there is no clear winner. I will say I found the Vulcan to look better in person than in pictures, but preferred the smaller overall bobber design of the Rebel out of the two. But hey, let me know which one you think looks better down in the comments below. Onto the engines. We are comparing the learner approved models of these two, so they are limited in how much power they can create. The Honda is equipped with the same 471cc liquid cooled inline 2-cylinder that can be found in this CBR 500 sport bike. However, here it has been remapped to focus more on lower down torque and bottom end power. It creates 45 horsepower at 8,500 RPM and 43.3 Newton meters of torque at 6,000. That gives it an estimated top speed of around 160 km and should travel from 0 to 100 in about 6 seconds. Look, it's not going to be the quickest bike around, and in my testing found that it didn't seem to enjoy being revved out all that much, getting buzzy at higher RPMs. Instead, it allows you to have a very usable amount of power lower down and is very comfortable at normal cruising speeds. The Vulcan S, on the other hand, does have a larger 649cc liquid-cooled parallel twin that can be found in the Ninja 650. As mentioned, there is a lambs and full-powered model, with the restricted one producing 47 horsepower at 6,600 RPM and 53 Newton meters of torque, where the unrestricted has 60.3 horsepower and 63 Newton meters. That gives it an estimated top speed of around 177 km an hour and can do the 0 to 100 time in about 4.5 seconds. In my review, I stated that the engine was the best part of the bike and the Ninja DNA really shines through. It feels torquey and has more than enough pep, especially for a beginner. Something to note is that it can be a bit twitchy on the throttle in lower gears and, like the Rebel, will experience a fair amount of buzziness at higher RPMs. While some may state that it isn't completely fair to put a 471 and 649cc bike up against each other, I think they fit in the same overall category of starter or smaller cruiser and will be directly compared. And out of the two, the Vulcan has got the bigger, peppier, and more fun engine, and is why it is a clear winner in this category. Now let's listen to the stock exhausts. Moving on, and we come to weight. There is a sizable difference in the amount of heft those engines have to move around. The Honda Rebel 500 is sitting on the road with a wet weight of 190 kilos, which is actually quite light for a bike of this class. That really helps in a few aspects of its performance and allows it to be quite an easy thing to maneuver at slow speeds or around the garage. The Vulcan S is carrying more weight, with the standard model tipping the scales at 226 kilograms wet on the road and the Cafe being 3 more at 229. The larger overall engine will play a part in those extra kilos, but it does have the larger footprint too. In my experience, I found it a bit trickier with its dimensions to maneuver at slower speeds compared to the Rebel. In this category, the Rebel 500 does win, being a full 36 kilos lighter than the base model of the Vulcan. That actually helps in the next area too, which is suspension and ergos. Clearly, these are both cruiser motorcycles, so they're not really meant to be used for carving corners and hunting apexes. The Honda at the front has got 41mm telescopic forks with 121mm of travel and twin shocks with 95mm at the back that are adjustable for preload. You're sitting really low here at 690mm in a formal dining chair-like position with your feet directly below your knees. It is a very easy motorcycle to flat foot, maneuver, and take through corners. You can push it further than you'd expect, and it has enough performance to have a bit of fun on twistier roads. However, the rear suspension doesn't have all that much travel, which does mean a harsher ride, and larger riders sitting on it may find that it bottoms out on bigger bumps. The Kawasaki at the front has also got 41mm telescopic forks with 130mm of travel, while at the back is an offset linkage type single shock with 80mm and adjustable preload. The seat, while low, is a bit higher at 705mm, but does place you into a more typical cruiser position, with your feet forward and arms open. Something to note is that it does have an ergo-fit design with 18 different combinations of foot placement, seat design, and handlebar bend that can be adjusted when bought. In my experience with it, I found it to be a very light feeling motorcycle when running, and it was eager to tip into a corner. I did find it a bit twitchy though, and not quite as stable as the Rebel. The seating setup that my bike had was also not the comfiest. However, I'm sure that there would be an ergo-fit design that may fit me better. This is a tough one to call for me. Kawasaki claims the Vulcan to have sport bike-like performance and aggressive handling, but I did honestly prefer the ergonomics and lighter ride of the Rebel. I think larger riders will feel better on the Vulcan, but found the Rebel to be more stable of the two and have more travel at the back. Overall, I'm calling this category as a draw, and both have got enough performance to be able to learn on and grow with and be comfortable enough for cruising. As for brakes, the Rebel has got a single 296mm disc with Nissan 2-piston caliper at the front and a single 240mm disc with single piston caliper at the rear. Here in Australia, it does also come with ABS as a standard feature. The Vulcan at the front has got a single 300mm disc with Nissan 2-piston caliper and a single 250mm with single piston at the rear. Just like the Honda, the Vulcan will also come with ABS as standard. The braking performance here is really similar between them. On paper, the Vulcan has got the ever so slightly larger brakes. However, this is where a bit of real world experience comes in handy. I found the braking performance to be slightly better on the Honda, and this in my opinion solely comes down to weight. You've got pretty much the same brakes on both, but they are slowing things of different sizes, so the lighter Rebel does feel like it stops a bit harder and faster than the chunkier Vulcan. Neither one is particularly amazing, but I give a slight edge to the Rebel. Now we come to fuel economy, and this is an interesting one. The skinny and sleek design of the Honda hasn't left them much room for a tank, which was one of my main complaints about it. It's only got a measly 11.2 litre fuel tank. Thankfully, its smaller motor does mean it gets some pretty decent mileage, and they claim it can get around 73.5 miles per gallon. Realistically though, most users claim to be getting around the 55 to 60 mpg mark. Using those real world numbers, we get an estimated range of around 250 to 280 k's per tank on the Rebel. The Vulcan S does have a larger 14 litre tank, but its bigger engine and increased weight means that its usage is a fair bit worse. Most users claim to be getting around 45 to 50 mpg from their bikes, which gives us an estimated range of around 270 to 300 k's per tank. Keeping in mind, there are lots of factors that go into how each one will perform, including rider size and weight, how you ride, and environmental factors. But at the end of the day, the Vulcan does have a larger overall tank size and should, in theory, have a longer range. The next category we'll look at is features, and well, this won't take long. Both bikes are pretty bare bones when it comes to extras included. The Rebel's notable ones include an LCD display, ABS, LEDs at the front, and an assistance slipper clutch. Yeah, that's it. I guess you could also mention the side-on key ignition that has your keys blowing about in the wind. Yeah, it's a very small list of extras, and one thing I noted when reviewing it is that it doesn't even have a tachometer. The Vulcan, on the other hand, its notable features include that ergo fit rider adjustment, ABS, a gear indicator and tachometer, and adjustable brake and clutch levers. Neither do particularly well here, and it's a bit hard to really call a winner. The Honda not having a tach isn't amazing, but it does at least have a slipper clutch, which the Kawi doesn't, and the Kawi's got those old bulbs in the headlight too. I'm calling this one as a draw because neither deserve a win, and both could do with an update. I suppose a silver lining here is that the bare bones nature of the two could be seen as a blank canvas to really allow you to customize your motorcycle into something different. We arrive at our final category of price. How much are you going to be paying for these? The Honda is the cheaper option to buy new, with the standard model having a price of $10,470, with that going up by about $500 for the S. The Vulcan, on the other hand, brand new, will cost you $12,407 right away for the standard model in either lambs or full powered, and the Cafe will cost you about $650 more. So the Honda is substantially cheaper to buy brand new. It's also a lot lighter, giving it an edge in some aspects of how it handles, whereas the Vulcan does clearly have the bigger and more fun engine, larger tank capacity, and is the sportier of the two. So the question is, who wins? Well, on paper, while it is more expensive, the Vulcan does come out on top over the Rebel. However, which one would I personally take if I had to choose? I'd actually take the Honda. I personally prefer the smaller design, more neutral ergos, and just how it felt when I sat on and rode it. But I reckon no matter which you pick, if you're looking for a smaller cruiser, you're gonna have a good time on either. I just wish Honda and Kawi would pull their fingers out and give them an update already. I guess with how popular they are though, and with each still selling like crazy, there's no real need. Let me know down in the comments which of the two you prefer, and while you're there, make sure to leave a like and hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a suggestion for which two bikes you'd like to see being compared next, let me know. But thanks for watching, and till next time, see ya.